Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here with Ted Ings. Today we have the vAuto by Cox Automotive panel. And with used cars expected to be a key driver of the automotive retail market in the months ahead, some dealers will find themselves needing or wanting someone different to lead their used vehicle department. And so, Ted, this session today, we're going to cover how the general manager of a Mercedes-Benz dealership approached the hiring process and talk about how he reestablished department objectives and is using them today to shape these great insights that we're going to have.
Sarah, thank you. You're so right. Introducing the roundtable to Mark Webster, General Manager at Mercedes-Benz of Orange County, New York. Mark, welcome. And Patrick Janes, no stranger to the Fixed Ops Roundtable, Associate Vice President of vAuto Inventory. Mark and Patrick, welcome to the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ted.
All right.
Sarah, great to be here.
Good to see you both. Exciting times. By the way, Patrick, I can't believe we're already at the end of January. Next week, we're going out to Las Vegas. I know you're going to be there. You're going to have an amazing presence at Cox Village.
We will. We're excited as always. We work a better part of the year to put together all sorts of new solutions and enhancements to our product. And AI is the buzz, right? So there'll be lots of new things that we'll be unveiling at the booth, the Cox Automotive Village, if you will, and the vAuto booth. And really excited just to get back and see a lot of old friends and dealer clients that come through the booth. That's probably the special part for me is to kind of rekindle some relationships that get distanced throughout the year when you're doing your day job.
Well, Patrick, Sarah and I look forward to seeing you in person there. You and Mark both share a similar background. Mark, I want to come to you on that. You've spent time with an OEM, followed by a transition to retail and managing dealerships. Mark, give us a little bit of color. How did your paths cross, and what led you to your retail career?
Yeah, thank you, Ted. Patrick and I started, I was like on a management associate program with Nissan out in LA when Nissan had their headquarters out there. So I worked for Patrick, had the opportunity to work with Patrick, and did a bunch of different rotations, but we've always kept in touch. I was there at Nissan as an OEM for 7 years, and Patrick and I kept in touch as he stayed with Nissan for a little while. He went retail a little bit later, and then I converted over to Mercedes-Benz USA, came east here to New Jersey, New York. And so I've always been interested in pre-owned and fixed ops. I've managed field teams, and I was the national CPO manager for Mercedes-Benz. And Patrick and I kept in touch, and he asked me one day, he was the general manager for a Nissan store, what do you think about me going to vAuto? I said, I think it's a great organization. I knew Dale Pollock, and so I gave him some encouragement and sticking with that. So he's rised up from the ranks there. I heard him on a podcast on another thing, so he's doing great with things like that. So anything I can do to help him and help vAuto, I'm a big advocate.
Patrick, I didn't realize about the retail part of your career. I know you're very well known at vAuto now, and of course Northwood University. So great color added there.
Yeah, I did about 10 years in retail as a general manager. So I made the same transition that Mark did. And that's a lot of what we have in common. Started out in that OEM space, and then decided that I got tired of dealers telling me, son, you haven't walked a mile in my moccasins, right? All right. So, I'm going to go into retail and really try to make it work. And I might add, and this is a testament to Mark as well, is that most folks going from the OEM into retail fail miserably. Sorry, I just have to admit that, right?
Right.
It is a hard transition. The retail space is a lot of energy, a lot going on. Every day is different. And that's very different from the corporate world. And not to defame my OEM brethren and sister that are still in that space, but I have a tremendous amount of respect for the retail world, and no day is the same. And the ability to make that transition is a huge challenge. And Mark has obviously made that in the role that he is today. I survived it. I don't know if I made it, but I survived it anyways for about 10 years. And then decided that, what I really valued was being able to help dealers with their operations and their business. And vAuto kind of gave me an avenue to be able to do that with the software solution. And that's really where Mark came to me. So Mark said, all right, you made the move that I've made. What did you learn? And now I'm a vAuto client, as Mark is. What should I be doing in my operation to really grow my used car business? And the first thing we talked about was, and I'll set him up for this quest that he had for a used car manager, was he was kind of using a GSM like I did in the stores that I was at to do the used car thing, right? To wear a couple of hats.
Oh, wow.
And there wasn't anybody solely focused on that used car operation. And I told him, quite frankly, I made that same mistake, Mark. So once we started to talk about that, he said, well, I think I need to go find the right person to maximize this operation. That's where we led to, all right, what does that person look like? What can they do? And I'll let Mark take it from there on how he put that in place.
No, you're absolutely correct. Here at the dealership, we're part of NADA, so we're part of a 20 group. And so I talked to some of my 20 group general managers, and like Patrick, they said, hey, you really do need a dedicated pre-owned manager. Mm-hmm. Previously, when I came on board, we had one, but he kind of got promoted to GSM. And when I was looking at all the different things that a pre-owned manager needs to do, whether it's reconditioning, pricing, merchandising, buying, sourcing cars and everything else, it's a full-time job for sure. So then we went out and looked for a dedicated pre-owned manager. And we were doing the interviewing and even looking at different resumes. I was looking at, hey, were they fluent in vAuto? And if I can go in later if you want about some of the questions I asked and how I related those things, and kind of brought it to fruition whether they really were involved with vAuto and Profit Time and et cetera.
Well, Mark, I mean, we're seeing as used cars continue to have a really center stage part of, not only fixed operations, but also what customers, continue to look for when it comes to their purchase decisions. I mean, we're seeing the cost of new inventory continue to climb. We're seeing used cars really taking an important priority. And there's a lot happening between the used car department and fixed operations. So, with a used car director today, what are some of the must-have characteristics or skills that you wanted your next used vehicle director to possess, and how did you determine those would be your top priorities?
Yeah, good question. Thank you, sir. Is essentially I wanted to make sure that I think, let's say 10 years ago, a pre-owned manager was more art than science, and I wanted somebody that was a little bit more scientific based, would get into the data and really run it by the data. And vAuto provides that in a lot of different ways. I also wanted Mercedes-Benz used to be a very high leasing before COVID, high leasing, and now the leasing and the off-lease maturities came down. So we need to work even harder to source inventory. So that dovetails into working the service drive and doing appraisals on cars in the service drive, et cetera. And because every day matters in the used car business, not just for pricing, et cetera, but for appraising cars and getting reconditioning done. So I know there might be part of the audience here that's very interested in fixed ops like I am. It's the recon business is really important. So I was interviewing the candidate that I hired, John, and when we asked him, what do you think about reconditioning? And I had my service manager and parts manager in the interview as a part of this second or third interview. Wow. And we went through the reconditioning. What are your thoughts on reconditioning? He goes, I want to do reconditioning for what's best for the store. Because when we sell a car, even if it's at really low gross profit on the variable side, we know that we're going to get the reconditioning, we're going to get the F&I, but we want to create that service customer in our AOI, our area of influence. And he goes, look, if I told you, he said this to the parts manager and service manager, if I told you you were going to have a used car dealership right next door that was going to sell 50 cars a month, and they were only going to do business with you, how would you treat them? He goes, so yes, I want to be treated right. I'm going to pay full retail price, but I'm going to work with you guys both on the reconditioning, et cetera. So we've had a couple great recon meetings. John meets with our internal advisor every morning and goes over things. So it's really been a good relationship. He has the right uh, personality type and the right thing. So and just take it a step further within profit time. Some cars are common, and we want to turn those very quickly. We call those bronze cars. We're trying to get those done in 20 cars. We're just going to start telling the service department, hey, these are bronze cars. These really need to get done quickly because every day matters. Okay. So, and then we go up the chain of the different metals. So we really want everybody to have the notion, which I call, and many other dealers say this also, a need for speed. So we're trying to get our recon cycle time down to 4 days. And we're getting closer and closer to that. But the attitude on working with John is great. And from the service manager, internal advisor, and our parts manager, it takes the whole team.
Patrick, you brought the right man on the show today. Anything you'd want to add to that?
He's speaking your language, right, Ted, for a fixed ops
Yes,
roundtable, huh?
big time. Yes,
He went
he
to the
is.
heart, right to the reconditioning, pull in
Right.
that fixed ops element. I love it. I think the other thing that I was impressed with, Mark, and I suffered this same issue here when I was in retail. As a general manager, unfortunately, the title general tends to make you kind of fly around at 30,000 feet and not necessarily roll up your sleeves and understand what's going on in each different area. Because I mentioned it's a fast-paced environment. There's a lot going on in a dealership in any given day. And it's really easy to just jump from fire to fire to fire, right? When Mark called me and said, hey, I need to make this decision. I've been to my 20 group. I shared with him that, yeah, I made the mistake. You need that used car person. When he called me and had that conversation with me, I really said, Mark, the first thing that I would do is let's get on some calls, not only with myself, which I'm pretty good in the software, but let's get on with someone who is one of our performance managers,
Okay.
one of our subject matter experts, particularly in profit time. He was mentioned that earlier about the kind of this variable management approach of some cars turn faster than others. And that's really in the profit time methodology. But let me make sure that we give you a deep dive into the software so that when you bring on this used car manager, you know which reports to look. As a general manager, you can't be in there spending
Right.
hours and hours every day, but you know the things to look for to inspect what you expect when you bring on this new manager. So Mark made the commitment to spend hours and hours a week with us in calls,
Wow.
really digging into his data and making sure that he had been in there and he had been looking at things, but really boil it down to the most critical parts that he's going to want to manage when that used car manager gets on board. And I give him a lot of credit for that, because a lot of general managers,
No.
again, not that they don't want to, but they find themselves distracted by all the noise that happens every day. Making that commitment is hard, but he did it. And I know that's going to pay off for him in his used car operation.
Absolutely.
Mark, can I come back to the that hiring process, if you will, if you don't mind?
Please.
What were I realize you probably had more than one candidate initially for
Right.
this position. What were some of the questions? Because our audience is interested in this.
Right.
What did
No,
you ask the candidates to see if they had the right skill set and the right perspective?
yeah. First of all, on their resume, did it say, vAuto? Okay. Were they
Okay.
familiar with it?
Wow.
Then if it wasn't on there, if I'm interviewing them either by telephone or in person, and are you familiar with vAuto? And so then I would go a little bit deeper, like how do you use it? And, what, how often, what are your favorite reports? And one of the big ones I asked, and two of the top candidates had the right answer. Do you use your performance manager? Okay. And I think, I, Patrick and I, were involved with the Nissan Open years ago when we were in Nissan, and we had a chance to hang out with Tiger Woods and everything else. Even Tiger Woods in his heyday had a coach. So even if you think you're a really good pre-owned manager, the performance manager, that's all they do every day. And they know how to look at the inventory, and they'll, make sure you're in line with everything. So I think, whether or not they use the performance manager, which I think we're big advocates of, John the pre-owned manager is doing that, which is great. And so it's really, so those are some of the things. And then just getting the responses and finding out with these vAuto, are they curious? Do they like to learn? I'm a big advocate of lifetime learning. So I think I can kind of get a feel, not just on the vAuto piece, but do they like to learn? Because as Patrick has been saying, vAuto is continually improving this. Are they willing to use the features that are in there? Or are they just, hey, I'm old school and this is the way I do it? That doesn't really warm my heart. I'd rather have somebody that's like, hey, I'm always changing.
Sarah,
I
I'm
love
thinking.
Ted. I love the comment earlier that Mark said, and he just spurred it there at the end. I was looking for more of someone who can transition to science and not lean on the art.
Yeah,
And
I like
we're
that.
seeing that generationally. And you guys spend. And by the way, kudos to you for the time you've been spending up at Northwood University and really showcasing the students up there. And that's near and dear to my heart. I spent a lot the past 7 years up there teaching, and I love the students up there and how they learn. But we've got a new generation of dealership employees coming through the system, right? And they haven't been in a situation where they've stood in an auction lane and memorized every year, make and model and what they go for, right? I mean, that was the old used car manager was like, this guy could put a number on any car, without even looking at it because,
Yes.
he knew everything there was because he's
Yeah.
standing in auction lanes and seeing all these cars fly by, right? All the auctions are virtual now. You can still go to a physical auction, but you'll find that there's not a whole lot of people there. Most of the people are buying online and
Buying
simulcast.
online, sure.
So
Exactly.
we don't have the expertise of these
Okay.
younger folks of having that's what developed the art, right?
Yes.
And so they have to be comfortable with the data, and they are because they grew up on iPads, right? So they need to be comfortable with the data and to be able to interpret the science part and make really good decisions. And I think that's kind of our job as us old car dogs, as I'll call us, to be able to bring in this new generation and give them the tools and the solutions to be able to make maybe better decisions than we did because we were kind of shooting from the hip sometimes, right?
Mark, can I follow up with one more, if you don't mind, in terms of
Sure.
reconditioning the oversight on reconditioning? What other kinds of experience and knowledge were you looking for there? And
Well,
how did you evaluate that? I'm curious.
yeah, that's a good question. I think it's a couple things. Is John, who we hired, he has a lot of experience with being a used car manager, GSM, and
Okay.
et cetera. Is that it has to be a partnership with parts and service, because you can't decline everything that they're asking, but you can't necessarily. We're not trying to bring it to Pebble Beach either. We're trying to find different levels of reconditioning. So on a flip chart in the next room over, I have those different levels. There's like, safety. We want to make sure any car we sell is safety related. Okay. The next one is, hey, we're going to just sell it as a pre-owned car. Now, as a Mercedes-Benz dealer, I want to certify every car. Okay. Because we're a Mercedes-Benz dealer. We have the star
Sure.
on our franchise. So and I used to be the national
And you were the
CPO
national
manager. So
manager,
I'm a
yes.
big fan of CPO, and it's good. So the next thing is pre-owned. If for some reason it's too old or we can't, or it's an off-brand car, we're going to sell it as pre-owned. Then the next best thing is, we're going up the ranks is CPO. And then if it's a really special car, let's say it's a G class or GT or something like that, that's what I call those show cars, where we're going to want to make everything. And that would be in the vAuto world, like a platinum car. And we're going to do everything on that car, and we're going to get all the money on it. And we're not in a rush to sell it because we're just waiting for the right buyer. So there's reconditioning standards for each of those metals that I was going back to for bronze, for silver, gold, etc. And so the service manager and the internal advisor and the pre-owned manager need to work together. So I felt comfortable in John explaining his thing and some of the other candidates that were highly ranked candidates about what their philosophy was, that, hey, it wasn't just what's best for me. And yes, we need to make the pricing's important, but we understand that there's downstream impact to fixed ops and to the dealership as a whole.
Mark, it's incredible to hear, just the evolution of how you've really thought through all of the components that really go into hiring and retaining a really good pre-owned manager that's going to really have this relationship with our service department. Because again, our customers are expecting this. They're expecting that cohesiveness between service and sales, and that speeds up everything for our dealers that are listening. I want to get your perspective, just in our final few moments here, with some advice to our dealers that are listening. If you could encapsulate just a couple final points to offer our other dealers that are in our audience today, looking to bring someone new on board, what advice would you give them to get started today?
Yeah. So thank you for the question. So I think, are they analytical? Okay. Do they like working with data? So that's number one. Two, are they a good team player? That gets back to the reconditioning and working with other parts. Uh, when you sell a pre-owned car, it affects every other department, right? It affects new car, service, and parts, etc. And then do they, and this is the part that I recently really came to appreciate through Patrick and some of the experts he put me in front of. How aggressively are we going after appraisals? So that was another piece. And then there's the financial piece, which I'm kind of talking to Ted and you, Sarah, but we talked about sometimes we talk about fixed absorption. Okay. And so, but let's use a new metric called total absorption, where we take fixed absorption, which is service and parts absorption, plus pre-owned, and how much of that will cover our expenses. So if the pre-owned manager and the other two managers, if everybody understands that, hey, this is going to help our total absorption, I think that's very helpful, especially for a GM to realize that, because it's a big opportunity. We have a lot of room for improvement, I'll be honest with you, but that's what we're working on.
Patrick, the insights from Mark here and that you are adding really give us a lot of information in terms of what we need to be looking for. Okay, in the not just the future. I mean, the future is now, right? As you said, in terms of vehicle acquisition, looking at pre-owned vehicles, and really the importance that plays on the entire dealership. So
I
powerful
tell you,
stuff.
I told you I was bringing a rock star on with me. I'm not going to, just drag any guy on here that isn't going to add any value to your show, Ted.
Patrick, I see that. I'm greatly appreciative. Mark, any other final points? I'll give you the last word that you'd like our audience to be aware of or know of as we start off here. We're at the end of the first month of a new year, but things they need to be aware of for 2026, or things they should be thinking about at least.
Yeah, I think that everything is about turn time, whether it's in service, getting a car in and out of service. It's really important. We track that. That's really important. I think turn time on reconditioning, and then turn time for pre-owned cars. We're trying to really bring down our days to sale. So I think everything's about the need for speed,
Okay.
but still giving a good a good customer experience, good employee experience. So, but you can get the whole dealership. You can try to get the whole dealership involved in that need to speed. So I think that's important.
Mark, thank you so much for coming on the Fixed
My
Ops Show.
pleasure.
Great honor to have you, and you're invited back anytime you'd like. You got great information and a great resource, and we may have some questions for you going into the future. Patrick, I have a feeling we will. So,
Thank you.
Sure.
Patrick, speaking of which, next week, I mentioned earlier, NADA, you're going to be out there in Las Vegas. Sarah and I will see you as well. Anything that we can look forward to? Again, vAuto always seems to be a hub of activity, and this year I think even more so.
Yeah, we're excited. We're launching a product, and I'll just tease it this way, that's going to help you find car deals. How's that? Do you want to come into our booth and you're looking for car deals? You might just want to stop by and see me at the vAuto booth. I'll leave it there, but I think that might interest most dealers.
All right. Everybody, if you're going to NADA, look up Cox Village. Patrick Janes at vAuto will be there in the West Hall. Won't be able to miss them. Okay. And again, Sarah, looking forward to a great event next week as well.
It's going to be incredible, Ted. Lots of exciting things happening at vAuto by Cox Automotive.
Gentlemen, thank you for all you do for the industry, and appreciate you greatly and spending your time here with us today. Great insights. Mark Webster and Patrick Janes here with us today at the Fixed Ops Roundtable.